ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally?
Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going?
Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me.
Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
So far in 2023 Season 1, no one has managed to take pole, fastest lap, or win other than Andy T. The task of toppling the multi-time champion is beginning to look a little daunting. But as always, there are a raft of fast drivers ready to take on the challenge. Can they do it at one of Andy's home tracks? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 5 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Brands Hatch marks the 5th different country we visited this season. Let's take a closer look with our track guide. Welcome to Brands Hatch. When popular British racing circuits get listed, this track just to the southeast of London often finds itself near the top. The extensive history of the venue has meant that many famous names in racing have ran laps here. But the stats make it sound deceptively simple, with the Grand Prix and Indy course having 9 and 6 turns respectively. Laps might be short, but they're also fast, and the corners are often a challenge to get right. As you'd expect, that means passing is quite difficult, with most drivers leaning towards sending one up the inside at Druids. You might occasionally see overtakes into the first corner, Paddock Hill Bend, but the blind apex and gigantic drop in elevation make that an errand for only the brave. Many of the corner names pay tribute to famous British drivers from the past decades, such as Hill, Surtees, Sterling, and Clark. In fact, the fame extends beyond the drivers, but to the cars as well, with this place seeing everything from Formula One to Formula Ford, touring cars, GT cars, motorcycles, and even rallycross. It's a gorgeously scenic venue where lush trees envelop the back half of the course, while the front half is mostly encapsulated inside a natural amphitheater. This makes it extremely popular with race fans who can see a majority of the circuit from many seating positions. With a great location near a major metropolitan hub, a spectator-friendly layout, and an experience that challenges drivers, you can see why this place remains abuzz with racing to this day. Well, Joey, one thing I do love about this track is when it comes to the Lotus 79, this is a period accurate circuit to be racing, and the layout is pretty darn close to what it would have actually raced.
Very historic. I agree with you there. And taking a look at the track map here, Brands Hatch, the 9 turns, just over 2.3 miles that we learned about there in the track guide. And some of the keys to note: turn 1, Paddock Hill Bend. It is off crest, downhill. It is so easy to get sucked out into the gravel trap there. Also, a possible passing opportunity down into Surtees, which is known as turn 4. Then things get really narrow from Westfield Bend, which is turn 6, all the way through around turn 9 to the front straightaway. It'll be interesting to see how the wide Lotus 79 machines with so much ground effect really suck to the surface here at Brands Hatch with the elevation change.
Yeah, it's got to be pretty scary around that back half of the course with how fast these things go through there. Let's take a look at the championship, and it's kind of straightforward, honestly, with Andy T taking perfect scores in every single race. He's already 97 points ahead of Timothy Reed, and it's 85 points for a win. So he is a win's worth ahead at this point. Kimmo Viekainen has at times been trying to keep up with him, not always there. Last time out, Gernot Friesche, or 2 times ago, actually, I should say, Gernot Friesche actually put on a little bit of a challenge, which is something of a surprise to us, considering how he's been racing in this car for the past couple years, but seems to have found his groove in it once again. But things remain tight a little bit farther down. Vaughn, Thyssen, Leno, Costa, and Schuster are barely separated by a little more than 20 points between them. So could see a lot of jostling around today, depending on how that winds up. But that's just the F1 drivers' standings. We also have an F2 championship.
The F2 championship is only separated by the driver's iRating, and we see JF Godin here in the front only by 5 points over Olivier Verhagen right now. Things get pretty tight further back, tied up again between Miguel Moreland and Mike Christopher Jr. there for what is the 3rd place. Keith Herner inside the top 5. And as we get this series going, I'm looking at these names, and we're going to see a couple of them in today's race, but it's going to be more about consistency and showing up for the races and getting all the weeks counted, which JF Godin seems to be doing right now.
Absolutely. Now, for the race itself, we're looking at 26 laps here in round 5. It's open setup, so drivers can try to find some speed around here. Certainly want a lot of downforce at this track. There's not many long straightaways here. They don't have a spare car, and considering how old school this place is, there's a lot of portions where the barriers are just right up there, and it's going to be easy to bin it. They have a drive-through penalty at 17 incidents and a disqualification at 25. We're not anticipating those being as much of a concern as the damage. And right now, qualifying, which is going to be another critical part of today's race, is taking place. And Nick Thyssen has the provisional pole.
Well, you mentioned it. It's going to be a very important part of today's race. There's not very many passing opportunities here, and we're right on board with Andy T as he is going to be putting down what looks to be his first timed lap right along board with him. This is down into Surtees, this turn 4. And to get back to my point, track position, it's going to be important. Minimal passing opportunities. If you're out front, you got to stay there.
Yeah, track position going to be a distinct advantage if you can just keep the speed up and keep running defensive line. It'll be very, very tough to pass. Here's that back half of the course we were talking about. You can see how swift Andy has to swing it through some of these blind corners, especially Sheen right here, up and over the crest. Can't see a thing. Just have to know where the track goes. And then through Sterling's. And just one more corner to go to finish the lap through Clark Curve. Let's see if he can put it ahead of now Dylan Freckleton, who's beat Thyssen to the provisional pole. Again, nobody else has been fastest in qualifying all season, except for Andy T. A 1:10.9 is indeed your top spot, but not by much over Freckleton.
Hey, you see how sketchy it is coming out of the exit of turn 1 when you're on the limit there. And, you know, I do have to give credit to Nick Thyssen because he put some style points in. He spun out of the last corner on his second lap and actually went reverse into pit lane. He's full stopped in his pit box the wrong way.
Nice. Juan B. Costa here has yet to set a time. His first lap got deleted. That happens if you go outside of the track bound. It's all automatic detected by the simulator, so you can't really fudge it or argue your case here. It's either you are or you aren't inside the track limits. And Costa's got to get this second one right. Only he and Jason Clapper need a time at this point of our 19 drivers that have signed up for today's race. Freckleton's already taken his 2 laps, so he can't topple Andy T. Peterson, as you mentioned, is done. Gernot Frische, who's not been known for his qualifying pace in recent times, is still out there on his second lap, so maybe he could do something to get closer. If he overtakes Andy T, it'll really be an upset that we weren't expecting. Here we're riding on board with the Austrian.
I don't think this lap is going to be quite enough for Gernot Frische to get up to the pole position. It looks a little bit faster than his last lap, maybe an improvement slightly, maybe up a spot or two, but here he comes rounding the final corner. You see, there's not even a straightaway on this racetrack.
Yeah, it's called the Brabham Straight, and he does improve to a 111 flat, which is going to put him up to third. That's a very good qualifying for Gernot Frische. But yeah, the Brabham Straight even has its own kind of little arc to it. But that's going to take us to the qualifying order of our 19 in the top split today. And Andy T gets that pole position over Juan Mi Costa, whose second lap was pretty good there. Put him into second place. Gernot Frische as well. Second lap was good enough for P3. Dylan Freckleton starts in fourth, followed by Nick Tisson in P5, Philip Kraus in 6. Kimmo Viekainen, only P7 for him today. He's got some work to do. Nathan Finnegan in P8, and then it's Xavier Sanchez 9th and Karthik Pai in 10th.
Here in the 11th place, we got Paul Williams, Juha Reina in the 12th spot, Tim Britton 13th position, Andreas Schuster 14th, and there we have David Azevedo in the 15th spot. Tomas Bartfai 16th, Seamus Power 17th, Barry West in the 18th spot, and then Jason Clapper did not put a time down, which we often see Jason Clapper do, and then work his way up through this field.
Yep, so no doubt he'll be trying to pick off spots here and there. Track temperature's pretty good here today. It's 81 Fahrenheit on the surface. It's 27 Celsius for the metric friends. And it's about 10 mile an hour winds. A little bit of wind. Main thing, they just don't want it to be changing direction and speed on them too much at this track, because there's some high commitment corners. It is in the middle of the day, so we could see these temperatures rise, but it's, I believe, partly cloudy. Yeah, it's partly cloudy out there. So we're getting the sun kind of in and out behind the clouds. We'll see how much it actually raises today.
Yeah, the other thing to note about that virtual weather is that it's right about lunchtime over there at Brands Hatch. So if it's going to be doing anything, it might just rise up a couple more degrees. But I think that given these cars and the high downforce setups that we're going to see today, they're all going to be pretty hooked up. It's just going to be if the drivers decide to overstep the limits. And now that I really remember how these cars race, Joe, I'm going to be curious if the turn 1 exit curb upsets them at all with how low they ride to the ground.
Yeah, that's a good point. And they're already lining up out there now, getting ready to start. The plunge down into Paddock Hill Bend can sometimes see a little bit of calamity into there. So they've got to be on their toes as they come into that first corner, because everybody's going to be jockeying for position at the same time, trying to navigate that really steep blind plunge over that corner and into a huge compression there at Pilgrim's Rise. So they're going to be experiencing a lot of different changes and forces in the cars as they're all trying to deal with being so close to one another. It's no wonder that you often will find cars making contact, even in real life, through that portion of the circuit at the start of the race. But looks like we've got Peterson out there, Andy T waiting to grid himself up as Juan Mi Costa takes his place on the outside of the front row with Dylan Freckleton just behind him. Everybody's probably got a bit of a target on Andy now, considering he's been the one to beat. I'm not sure that it's even a matter of, well, we got to vie for the championship. This is just somebody's got to try and take him down a peg here if they want to at least get a little bit of a victory on their mind at this point, a sort of an emotional victory out there, as looks like we're all ready except for Viekainen, teammate there of Andy T, and he's given it a bit of time. Now he has placed himself on the grid. The engines will start to rev as the lights come up here on round 5. And the green flag is out. Andy T looks pretty solid on the start. Somebody back in 5th place looks like they are dropping. I think that is Nick Tisson, who looks like he did not get very good grip off of the line. Behind him, looks like most everybody manages through the first corner safely. But what about Druids as they go 3 wide?
A little bit busier further back. Kimmo Vilakainen got an excellent launch on that standing start. He already is up a couple positions and on the back of Gernot Friesche already.
Already T, Costa, Freckleton, your top 3. Friesche couldn't get it off the line quick enough. He falls back down to 4th. Vilakainen, as you mentioned, into P5 and chasing on the bright yellow machine as they come down into Hawthorne now. Can they withstand the buffeting of the dirty air and cold tires here as they fly around these fast corners?
Pretty impressed with what we're seeing. We're going to see aero wash and cold tires probably come into effect here through the back half of the course and maybe see the competitors separate out just a little bit.
We'll try and get the replay later, but Tim Britton actually had a lucky escape. I think he did clatter the wall a little bit in Hawthorne, but actually went off track and somehow lived to tell the tale. That is not a common thing in this car out here as they now finish lap 1. It is still T, Costa, Freckles.
Just got out too wide and there was contact with the wall there, Joe, but hey, great job to keep it on the left side of the racetrack when he rejoined.
That is impressive. They're going so fast through there. I can't believe he managed to get away with that. It's usually kind of day over as soon as you plunge into there. But Vilakainen versus Friesche is still very much on as he's right underneath the gearbox, but can't stay there very long as he's super close and just not getting the downforce he needs through these corners. As we said, it's going to be tough to pass. Somebody in the background went off. That's Nick Tisson, and he is into the wall hard.
Oh no, problems for Nick Tisson. I saw that he also had trouble on the start. He was down about 3 positions off of the standing start, and it looks like he's already hit that tow and repair button. We're going to catch this replay, Joe. See exactly what happened.
This is coming out of Westfield. Oh, and again, car just understeering a little bit wide. Big hit. You can see the underside as he popped up in the air. And yeah, I'd say he does not like this track today.
I think there's going to be a few more that will join him at the pub here as the laps go on, but it'll be really interesting to see this battle between Kimmo and Gernot develop as we're riding on board. This is Nathan Finnegan putting the pressure on Philip Kraus in front of him, and it's also Karthik Pai and Xavier Sanchez right underneath his rear wing.
Pai's really developed a reputation as well as being solid in the races, just kind of picking positions off as everybody else makes mistakes. He's in 8th now, which is already up 2 positions. We're only on lap 3, so he's doing pretty good. But there you see all the various drivers involved in this crowd of cars. We'll see if Pai can deal with those in front and behind Finnegan, as you mentioned, and then Sanchez there just kind of watching to see if he makes any sort of mistakes as they fly through Sterling and onto clearways.
And we got to remember, Xavier Sanchez is also in this battle. He's an incredibly fast driver, and they're all lined up right now behind Nathan Finnegan. I don't think that Finnegan is holding him up, but it's just the nature of this racetrack. We mentioned it, very difficult to pass.
And not finding opportunities. You almost need a mistake of some sort from the driver in front, or else a real huge pace advantage to be able to overtake. And these guys, obviously, with their qualifying, are pretty close on pace. As we look back at Andy T, his pace advantage has gotten him up to 1.3 seconds. He's not completely running away with it. Costa's keeping him honest, but it's not looking like the 5 is able to catch him right now, at least.
I agree with you, but it's nice to see Costa out there actually still in the same frame. We see Andy T, but Juanmi Costa's right there. And here we're riding on board with Jason Clapper trying to make a move up through the field. But earlier in these races, Joe, we've seen Andy T just run away with it. It's nice to have somebody that if he makes a mistake or even goes over the limit in the brake zone, Costa's going to be right there.
No, I don't think we've ever gotten to interview Jason or Kurt Clapper, who've been on the channel a lot. Oh, Schuster's off. Schuster is off right there. You can see the smoke. And that looks like an overshoot of Sterling. with him off into the gravel, but he's able to get it back on the track. I was going to say about Clapper, we've never got a chance to talk to him. I'd love for, if you're watching this later, Jason, come and have a chat with us, because I want to know, do you never qualify because you just revel in the thrill of trying to overtake cars, or is it lack of confidence? We just don't know, but it's their MO, and they always really do a good job of trying to weave through the field.
Karthik Pai just made a mistake in turn 3, allowed 3 cars up underneath. Here's the replay of Andreas Schuster, which we saw off track. I think, Joe, you're right. I think it's just going to be a little bit too fast into this corner.
There he goes. Ooh, full, just about 720 spin there as he went off, and thankfully was off the racing line and was able to slowly get back onto the track. Nobody's been put a lap down despite Paul Williams taking that penalty a little bit earlier. We come back to Karthik Pai, and even in live time here, he's already lost a fair bit to Juho in the number 19, and that's an impressive run here from Reina in that car, because that number is indicative of their iRating. That's something that you have to earn here based on your performances in the races, which either means he doesn't race that much, or he theoretically shouldn't be as quick as these other cars, but he is doing pretty good with 9th out of 19.
I mentioned Sanchez, Finnegan, Pai earlier, but you're right. Reina's been right there on the back end of this battle, kind of the caboose in the train, if you will, but he's been picking up the pieces as they've fallen, and that has included Karthik Pai.
Back to Clapper once again. He goes a little deep there into Surtees, but he holds on to it, keeps it from drifting off the course. Great bit of speed on the veteran Barry West as they come up to Hawthorne. West is another driver that doesn't necessarily qualify as well, but is always in and around here in the series, trying to get the best he can over the course of these laps, and he's keeping Clapper at bay for the time being. So this should be a good fight between two very consistent drivers.
Well, and not only that, but Jason Clapper, he's up 5 positions, but in front of him, Barry West, who he's battling, also up 5. Seamus Power in front of that, up 5. Tomas Bart 5, up 5. So this group that Jason Clapper is running in, they're all moving forward. It's going to be good racing.
No doubt. Back to Sanchez once again in 8th position. He's catching up to Nathan Finnegan now, who's dropped off of Philip Kraus, and they're almost parried off. We've got these two, and then behind them we saw Reina and Pai that are battling. So I think drivers are just getting a little bit held up behind at least one car and can't seem to get by. They've still got plenty of race left to go, so they can show some patience, but depending on how much higher you feel like you can run, you don't want to wait too long in this situation.
Agreed, and we saw that earlier. Nathan Finnegan here was in front of a train of 4 cars. Well, it's only a train of 1 car now, but Xavier Sanchez is that lone remaining car. He still shows that consistent speed. I think he is a little bit faster than Finnegan if he got around him, but Nathan Finnegan is running a great race, just hitting his marks.
Sanchez, one of those drivers that I love getting to see each weekend, because he races not just here in the 79s, but also the Camel GT series. That's 80 sports cars. And then the Lotus 49, even older Formula 1. Oh, what's happened here? That's Karthik Pai.
Karthik Pai was running up alongside of Juho Reina there into turn 1, around the outside, just got out into the dirty stuff, into the gravel, Joe.
Not enough grip. Car said, I can't do that, and this sends him back to 16th. Oh, commentator's curse again. I was just saying how consistent he was, and he's going to pay the price on that one. Oh, Clapper versus West has also gone the way of Clapper, as he's gotten by him, and that's actually checked them up into Tim Britton and David Azevedo.
Good to see Tim Britton back out onto the racetrack after having those problems in lap 1 there. This is a good battle for 13th place. Oh no, Barry West looks like he goes off the racetrack, opens the door for Azevedo. A little stack up here with these 3 cars.
Well, Barry also having trouble trying to keep the car on the road here. Whoa, and Azevedo is all the way out into the gravel. He's going to be able to trundle back to the pavement, and Pai appreciates that because he's now trying to catch up with him, but that separates Britain and West as we come back forward to Sanchez versus Finnegan. Just been teasing us with how close he's gotten to that gearbox.
Both of these competitors are doing an excellent job. Xavier Sanchez applying the pressure, really tucked up behind the rear wing. Nathan Finnegan unfazed, just hitting his marks. You look at Nathan, he's not even going defensive, although he slips a little bit wide there in turn 4, but more importantly, gets the exit power.
And sticking with him, this is one of those straightaways where if you can get close enough, the slipstream can help you to get side by side, but not this time. It's just through Hawthorne. Going wheel to wheel can be very sketchy and often race ending if you don't play your cards right. So staying patient. Sanchez still hot on the wing of Finnegan, out through Sheen and into Sterling's once again. This is about 16 seconds off the leader. Both of them make mistakes, but it is Sanchez who winds up in the wall.
Commentator's curse strikes again, and look at heavy damage on Sanchez. He's going to have to take the toe back. Joe, I just think he got up on the curb on exit and high-centered the car.
Both of them did almost the exact same thing, but drastically different results. Watch this. Like you said, just clattering over that curb, but it's Sanchez who got too greedy on the throttle, and off into the Armco he goes.
Really unfortunate. I mentioned how low these cars ride to the ground. I thought maybe turn 1 would catch it out, but there are other tall curbs at this racetrack, and clearly that is one of them.
Well, we all know it's difficult to ride in Finnegan's wake, unfortunately, so as the car of Sanchez is out of this race, Nathan continues on in 7th, and then Gernot Freesia, now we watch him still in 4th behind Dylan Freckleton. These two swapped positions at the very start, and Gernot has not been able to redress it since then.
No, but if we remember, it was Kimmo Villakainen applying the pressure to Gernot Freesia earlier in this race, and look at that. Gernot just left him in the dust, crawled his way up to Dylan Freckleton, and this is the battle for the final podium spot.
I'm sure Gernot's going to want this. Whoa, he really slides out coming over Patakill Bend, somehow keeps it on the track, and once again, the car struggling to get down to the apex there at Druid. He was a mile off of that thing that time. As he backs off, now he's getting the downforce that he wants. I do love these onboards recently after the update that they had a couple seasons ago for this car. Just the fresh coat of paint they put on this thing, it looks spectacular inside the cockpit with the detail that iRacing put into it.
Something I'm noticing about that, Joe, is this car in general. Look at how tiny that steering wheel is. And can you imagine driving this car back in the day with no power steering, these big, huge tires on the front end that you have to turn, and that little itty-bitty steering wheel?
Well, you have to remember, once it started getting to the most powerful of downforce machines from this ground effects era in the early 80s, drivers were collapsing from exhaustion after the race. The G-forces were that great. So yeah, these guys had to be incredible athletes.
Yes, and trust me, not to take anything away from them, I would gladly take a convertible in fresh air any day.
Well, it looks like right now Gernot Freesia is not enjoying the non-fresh air from Dylan Freckleton. Just can't seem to get close enough. He's really stuck behind that number 10 and has been since the very beginning. Because of those couple wrecks and spins that we've seen, it's taken away a lot of our battles that we had earlier. Everything's kind of separated out, and drivers now just in a holding pattern, at least at this stage.
It's got to be amazing to drive these cars around this place, especially this back half of the circuit that we're following on board with right now. You see how far they have to push the limit to every single track limit on the exit, on the apex curb, and up over these crests. And it's got to feel like a roller coaster with how much downforce they make.
And I know there's some people that would love to see them return to Brands Hatch, but I mean, you see how fast these cars are. Now imagine modern F1 cars, which are even faster, trying to navigate this place. And yeah, just a little bit too dangerous. I mean, that's why we're able to do this in sim racing, because there's no fear of life and limb as we come back to Tomas Bartfai, who is on the heels of Juho Raina. And it's about 4 positions up for Raina, but Bartfai is up 7.
I think, is he our biggest? No, there's Jason Clapper, our biggest mover. Surprise, surprise. But yes, Tomas Bartfai now on the back of Juho Raina. That is for the 8th place position. And you're right, Tomas having a great run out there, just keeping it consistent. And to talk about that consistency, we mentioned this racetrack. I think it falls into the hands of drivers like Andy T and Gernot Frischer that just get in the rhythm, get in the groove, and turn off laps.
I'm not talking about anybody's consistency anymore. Everybody I've mentioned has suddenly made mistakes out there today. So Bartfai still holding on. Oh, Frischer, did he get by? He did, because there was a wreck from Freckleton. He went off and into the barrier out of Sheen.
You can't blame that one on me. I didn't mention Dylan Freckleton. We'll probably get a replay of exactly what happened, but Gernot Frischer up into the 3rd place. This is going to be Dylan Freckleton, this purple car. And Joe, I think it's just going to be the same thing that we've seen all day. A little bit too fast into an apex, and oh, it was the apex curb. And look at how close it was for Frischer to squeeze by him.
Yeah, that has got to be scary, especially when the car changes directions. Let's watch from the Austrian's perspective here. So he's no doubt going to see the little bobble. Car goes to one side, goes the other. Whoa! He even had to change direction there. He thought, okay, left-hand side's clear. No, it's not.
And you saw him jump hard on the brakes to avoid. Great job, great heads-up driving from Gernot. But look at what that actually did. Kimmo closed it in. He's now less than 2 seconds back. But it looks like, oh, Philip Kraus actually just put a great move on Kimmo.
Brave stuff into Hawthorne, and good job for the number 4 to leave him that little bit of space there down through the corner so that the two of them didn't wreck. But that was gutsy from the number 3 to stick it into a corner that is just full commitment.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of drivers. It was just a mistake out of Villakainen coming out of turn 4 that was able to set up that pass by Kraus. But wow, that was a great move.
Indeed, that's highlight reel material for sure as they come around to, I think, about 12 laps to go now for these cars. Andy T has extended it to 3.8 seconds over Costa. It's been a very consistent pace between the pair of them, I'd say. Haven't seen any huge dips between the gap of Andy T and Juan Costa. And yeah, there you see right there the difference between them as this race carries on. So all Wanmi, I think, can do in this situation, and probably will do, is just plug away and hope that maybe we'll get that rare mistake out of the one.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you because Andy T is not running away with light speed here. It's just a tenth, maybe 2/10 every other lap or so, and that's accrued up to a little over 4 seconds. But as we've seen, just one step over the limit, an exit curb, an apex curb, can change the whole race for you.
If I'm honest, I'm a bit surprised, actually, because we have seen so many mistakes here today, and yet there's only been 2 retirements out of 19. That's a pretty good record. I would have thought that we'd see a few more wrecks, but we're watching just behind here as I believe that's Finnegan being chased by Juho Raina, who's got another target in his sights.
Yeah, Raina's scooted away from Bartfai, and now he is back up on the tail of Nathan Finnegan. And to speak to that point, Joe, I think it goes to the types of drivers that we're seeing at the front. This racetrack, not very many passing opportunities, so you have to stay consistent, and with how narrow it is, you just have to trust yourself in your car, and that just comes with comfort and doing laps.
Very close through Surtees. Not sure if he's close enough to try anything here. He's pulling him in, but he's going to run out of straightaway. If we want a good replay, Tomas Bartfai behind them, coming through Graham Hill Bend. So this was about maybe 40 seconds ago. Had a huge save as the car tried to come out from underneath him. So everybody really pushing hard. Let's see. Yeah, watch this coming down as it's downhill through here. So yeah, here's Bartfai. This is along the front stretch. This is going to be the 3rd corner, Graham Hill Bend, as we go through turn 1 in Paddock Hill, and then Druids. Watch the first left-hander.
And we're going to come downhill here, which actually adds to what you're talking about, Joe. Tricky to control the car.
Couple of corrections before it finally agreed to go where he wanted it to. Thankfully, that is a corner with quite a bit of runoff to the outside And Bart Fry continues on in 9th position in spite of the scare. Ooh, Andreas Schuster back here with Azevedo in front of him, but unfortunately blinking a little bit. He backs off because of that.
And yeah, there's been a battle between Barry West, Azevedo, and Andreas Schuster. It's been pretty good for what is the 14th position on the racetrack. Barry West has found himself in quite a few of these battles today.
Oh, and Britain's off course. That's the red car that you just saw. And I think that was another problem, and Graham Hill Bend just went off a little bit wide as Andy T sets another fastest lap of the race. Let's take a look at the replay. Tim got away with it once, but not twice.
We saw the car before this have a problem going into the corner. This one happens at exit.
Yep. Just clips the grass, and that Armco's right there waiting. This one, a much harder hit. He actually carries on amazingly, but the nose of the car is very crunched up. So that's going to be difficult to deal with. Whoa! Kimmo Viekainen! Is he going to be able to keep it out of the barriers? Just barely. Doesn't even lose a position. And that was a replay of that one. We had missed this. Holy cow!
Just a little bit too much yaw angle there at the beginning, and thankfully he was able to keep it out of the tires. I don't think this is going to be a race that Kimmo looks back fondly on. He was challenging the back of Gurnall, but has kind of fallen off. Just doing consistent laps in the 5th place position right now.
Yeah, there's been a lot of drivers that probably will want to put this one behind them, even though the attrition hasn't been as bad. It's just, man, it's been a rough one for so many, and those who are leading the way are basically the ones that have kept the mistakes out. Back to Schuster, still chasing on Azevedo and Barry West. West trying to keep that hole plugged up, making sure that these two can't overtake him. They certainly seem to have speed in comparison, but there is no place to go.
Yeah, Barry West has been in these. Oh no, and it looks like Schuster is off in the grass there. He's going to lose some track position, just like Kimmo Viekainen did on that replay, but keeps it off of the wall importantly.
So Juan Micoso, we got another replay. Did he have an off track now? It's up to 9 seconds. I'm going to assume that's a yes. Whoa! Wow! But what is that both feet in moment there?
Yeah, well, let's see exactly what happens. It's usually just brake lockup, which you have to. Yes, it would be both feet in to keep the engine going, essentially. What he did is he squeezed the brake to lock down the trajectory of the car once he started spinning.
And then, oh, do we have one with Clapper as well? Man, there's so many mistakes here today. Goes off track, full 360, catch it. Nice. Wow. I can't believe so many drivers are getting away with this stuff today.
The legend of Ken Block lives on.
Apparently, some of his spirit has gone into our Lotus 79 drivers today. And he actually narrowly avoided the inside wall of all things.
Well, that was the clipping point. If he's going to drift and be an entertainer, that was the clipping point where the judges are.
Exactly. Oh, well, Andy T has 7 to go, and we haven't seen any offs for him. Maybe we can elicit the commentator's curse to get some excitement out of that, but we'll see. I'm sure Andy wouldn't be terribly happy if we try to do that. Root you ho. Meanwhile, still in the 8th position with Nathan Finnegan now. Finnegan has rebuffed a number of oncomers up to this stage. Can he do so with the man that has gone up 4 spots?
Brian has been putting together a good last half of the race here, and just like that, yeah, 6 laps to go here at Brands Hatch. This track is very, very fast. It seems to click things off pretty quickly.
Out through Sterling once again. They're also right behind Freckleton, who's trying to go on a recovery drive here. Still in that number 10 car, in 6th place rather, up ahead. He's got a little ways to go, a number of car lengths to catch up to Dylan. It's about 1.5 seconds to that number 10 machine, at least at this stage. So not impossible to cut down into that and try to attack him, but he's going to have to turn on the afterburners at this point with only 6 laps remaining. Seamus Power. I don't think we've even talked about Seamus this whole race other than the grid. He is another one that is up 7 positions, tied for that hard charger with Bart Fye and Clapper.
Joe, you took the words right out of my mouth. This is about the time that I like to look at these hard chargers, the biggest movers, and somebody out there needs to decide it because I see 3 cars up 7 positions. That's Tomas Bartfy, Seamus Power, and also Jason Clapper. Who's going to go up one more?
Yeah, and they've got a good chance here if you're Bart Fye and Power. Clapper is a little ways off of these two, so could see a change of positions if they're really hungry for that. I mean, it doesn't give you any bonus points to be the hard charger in this series. It's just kind of a point of pride, I'm sure, for some, especially guys like Jason Clapper, who seem to revel in starting from the back of the field. Power's getting awful close to Tomas as we jump back over to Barry West now, chasing Andreas Schuster.
This battle still goes on. Barry West hasn't let him go. He's now the back of the train, but turning consistent laps with Schuster and also Azevedo in front of him.
I'm curious what the second split is going like with how many mistakes we've seen with top split here. This is uncharacteristic of this series. This series rather, produces a lot of drivers that go on to earn their black stripe, their pro license here on iRacing, which is extremely difficult to do. I'm talking a teeny tiny percentage of drivers ever earn that over the course of their career here on iRacing. So for this to have seen the number of drivers that have done that tells you something about the breeding ground of talent that the Sunday Grand Prix series is.
Been an interesting race for Reina, Joe, because he's kind of been applying pressure. He's fallen back, and now we see, I believe this is Seamus Power putting some pressure on the back here and trying to get up that one more position, as it looks like they're going to scoot away, or at least Reina is.
Oh, that was Finnegan off course that we just saw, but let's stay with this battle. Bart Fye forced to go defensive down through Paddock Hill Bend and through Druids. Power can't seem to go by. Finnegan, the latest to find the wall in a big way. The car's crabbing, and his day is over.
Unfortunate there for Nathan Finnegan. Probably going to catch a replay of exactly what happens here. This is going up into turn 1. Just too much entry speed, got loose on the entry, and no saving it from there, especially downhill.
And just slapped that tire barrier that hurt the suspension enough that it's day over. Let's watch it from on board. Yeah, he knew it was going, but just no amount of counter steering was saving the car as it was on a trajectory. And he is our latest DNF out of 1916, still running here with 3 laps to go.
I think one of the reasons why this racetrack is so cool is it exploits vehicle dynamics that are not supposed to happen. Like turn 1 here, you're going downhill and off camber. Everything is loaded up on the front left tire. The car does all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah, I've always hated trying to get that corner. I never feel like I've gotten it perfectly right over that crest, and they are starting to bring Yuho into the fray here, as while Bart Fye has been experiencing the threat from Power, he's still closing up. Oh, but that's a big slide. I think this is Power's best opportunity.
Here comes Power. He's going to look around the outside. This is not where you want to be. Looks like Bart Fye is going to keep the track position. Is he going to be brave? No, smartly thinks better of it.
Oh, but look at the over-under. Could he get it down into Westfield? He thinks about it and then backs out.
Tell you what, he almost had a tank slapper in that second decision. Good save.
So it's starting to get a little bit more tense out there between these two, because he knows it's going to be one to go pretty soon. My goodness, we've actually gone down to only 13 left on the lead lap. I didn't realize how many Andy T was overlapping at this point. There he is right now, catching up to Andreas Schuster. Whoa, and Schuster just had a spin. That is definitely something that could take out Andy T, and he knows that he actually backed off.
Yeah, he saw the lock up there. He is well off the pace right now. I think we'll probably see Andy T go around on the front straightaway, is what I would assume.
Yeah, and he knows I mean, even with that big slowdown, he's still 7.3 seconds ahead, and the white flag is being held aloft now as he crosses past the start-finish line. encroaches upon Andreas Schuster, who's well off the apex once again, but still not close enough to overtake him. This is a battle between Schuster and West, which is basically the bread and the sandwich here for Andy T.
Yeah, and interesting how much Barry West has closed in just based off of Andreas Schuster holding up Andy T. I think Andy's being very smart here, although he's already lost 2 seconds this lap alone to Juan Costa.
Yeah, Costa still can't hardly see him. That's how far back he is. But it looks like this is where T finally gets the wave by from Schuster to allow him through, trying not to lose that spot, knowing it's hard to overtake here on the back half of the course. Yet another flawless race here, trying to see fastest lap.
I just had a problem.
Oh, so close to the end. He was doing so fantastic. And I think he took a toe. Yes, he took a toe. His race is over. T holds on to that fastest lap right now unless someone has something phenomenal. So for 5 races in a row, we're looking at perfect scores for Andy T.
Coming around there, you see him celebrating another victory at Brands Hatch, another domination style day.
So what happened to Bartfi here? Up into Paddock Hill Bend, this claim another victim. Finnegan just had his problem there. Oh, it's the bumps. I always hate that. The car compresses right when that curve happens, and it bit him hard.
And Joe, this was actually the second incident. He had an incident with Seamus Power a little bit earlier prior to that as well.
Well, as the last of them cross the line, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back after that with the official results as well as driver interviews. So stick around.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally? Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going? Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me. Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
Welcome back to Brands Hatch. The 5th round of the Sunday Grand Prix series sees Andy T take another perfect score, but it was close. Costa, who followed him home in second, managed to run a 10.792. The fastest lap for T, a 10.767. It was 0.03 of a second difference on that last lap. So Andy almost didn't get the perfect score this time. Freesia just kind of trundled along in that third place in the end to claim a steady podium position. Philip Kraus was fourth, and Kimmo Viekainen finished P5. Dylan Freckleton was looking at a potential podium, but his one mistake cost him, and he settled for sixth. It was Juho Raina who impressed us today, taking seventh as Seamus Power was eighth, Karthik Pai was ninth, and Jason Clapper was up 9 for 10th.
Yeah, biggest mover there. Jason Clapper got it done in the 11th spot. Looks like we have David Azevedo. 12th, we have Tomas Bartfai. He is the first car officially one lap down. Then we also have Andreas Schuster, 13th. Barry West, who is involved in battles all day long, comes home 14th. Paul Williams there in the 15th spot. Tomas Bart, let's see here, 16th. Tim Burton, Nathan Finnegan there in the 17th. Xavier Sanchez and Nick Thyssen having those problems early on in the race.
Which takes us to our winner, Andy T, who joins us now. And Andy, congratulations, another perfect score, but this one was close. And I don't know if you've looked at the times, but maybe not in the way that you would have thought. Costa was very tight on pipping you to that fastest lap.
Yeah, you can thank the traffic for that. That was a little bit frustrating. Like I knew when I had clear air and saw the traffic coming, I really had to push and put a good lap in. And then, of course, it's just every lap there's something you have to live for or watch out for. I think somebody lost it before me. You just have to be careful at this track.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, we saw there was a lot of spins and wrecks out there today, especially late in the race. A number of people, unfortunately, didn't get to see the checkered flag right at the end. It did look like Juan Mi was keeping you mostly honest for much of the race. He had his own little off at one point, but the pace difference between you and him didn't look too drastically different.
I mean, it's brands. Like, I could push for sure, but like there's so many corners, you run wide even 2-3 inches and you're dead. And the throttle control through the middle section, like you get that wrong, you're dead. So I just thought, like, I got 3-4 seconds. Let's not go crazy and just try and get it to the end. And if I need to push for a fastest lap, I will.
Yeah, I noticed actually that you had 0 incidents. Was that kind of the goal here today? Is just to aim for that 0 incidents and let the chips fall where they may?
There's not really a good place to take a 1X here. It's not like some other tracks where you aim to finish on 16 incidents. Like, yeah, you don't want incident points at brands. If you've taken a 1X or something, you've probably got wing damage.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, congratulations, Andy, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you more. But man, this is an impressive streak, sir.
Thank you very much. Shout out to all the usual folks. You're all great.
That was Andy T. As we try to get the ringing out of our ears. Up next, I do believe Gernot Freesia is talking to Joey.
And Gernot, congratulations on coming home third today in that final podium spot. Good to see you standing on the podium again.
It's been a while, I think. So yeah, happy to be here. Good to talk to you guys again. It's quite a good season for me, actually, even if I'm not competing for wins. But yeah, at the very top there's Andy, and it looks like it's tea time every single week. So he's really in great shape, actually, and totally dominating. So huge congrats to him first, and to Juan Mi for a very good second place as well.
Well, you mentioned those two. They're running away with it here, and we've seen how dominant you have been in these cars. And now that we're seeing you racing every week, are you going to put in a little bit more practice and go upset that tee time a little bit?
No, not really. Actually, I don't have the time to do so much more practice, and also don't have the energy. So it's really hard to do that every single week. And on the other hand, even if I would put in more time, I don't think I would be much more competitive. So I would probably gain just a couple of tenths, and it's actually not enough to compete with Andy.
You're very, very humble. We know you're very fast out there. And talk to us a little bit about the racetrack that you had to deal with today, because we saw so many regular competitors overstep the limit just a little bit, and it seemed to bite them here at Brands Hatch. How difficult was it just to turn consistent laps today?
It's super difficult here on this track because there's no room for error at all. So if you run wide just by a couple of centimeters, you mostly hit the wall anywhere. So that's a really tough track to push, and you have to push to be fast, and so you have to be confident. And I have to admit that I was quite frustrated during the week because it's some practice, and I crashed many cars, and I thought I wouldn't find a balance for the car. So it's really hard to be confident and to push when you get oversteer in one corner and understeer in the next one, and the behavior of the car seems to change a lot. So I found it a really difficult week, much harder than last week actually.
Well, it's a bit like chasing your own tail sometimes out there with the car setup, but congratulations on the third place finish here. And before I let you go, is there anybody you want to say hi to?
Hi to all the guys running the series. I think the series is much more competitive than it used to be, and it's actually harder than ever. So yeah, thanks to the other guys making this a fun place to be, and thanks to you guys as well for doing great broadcasts every single week. Bye-bye.
That was Gurno Frisha, and to let everybody know, Gurno had 282 podiums in this series coming into this season. Impressive history out of that driver.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is 283 or if he's had more. I'd need to double check on what's gone on earlier this season. Regardless, we got to give a big thank you before we take off to the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And also thanks to the team today, Joey, Ryan, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, website, and merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next time out is another track where you can't make mistakes, Montreal. That'll be Sunday, January 22nd at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, back to our normal time. Up next, we have the majors, 2 hours of Sebring. It's the first round of the season, and that'll be at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.